Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES, that is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being here with me. Thank you very much for spending this 1 hour with me on a Saturday at noon Central Standard, of course, 1 Eastern Time. Today we're going to have a great show. We're going to talk about who else are we going to talk about other than Mr. Donald Trump? Hi, Jason Garrett. Hi, Krista Cahill. Thank you for being here, and thank you for loving the show. And please remember to spread the word, and please remember to share it as well. We're going to have a good show today. This was a sort of a heavy morning for me. I had to get up early to attend the college here in the Lone Star College, because we're attending what's called a public narrative session. And what we're doing is learning how to change the narrative, learn how to present the narrative so that we're able to talk to people. We have to be able to talk to people to make changes. We can't be there telling people how bad they are, or how crazy they are, or how silly they are for doing what they're doing. We have to learn how to talk to people so that they can see either our way, so that we can come together, or so that we can actually make changes. One of the reasons Donald Trump is so powerful now, because he's splitting the difference. And when you split the difference, you always have the opportunity to win. We're going to have a good show, as I said before. Please remember, this is a call-in show. The telephone number for calling in is 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 626-929-2495. If you want to get on air, you can call in and speak to me. Folks on Facebook will hear you, and folks all over the blogosphere as well, internet, will hear you as well. If you can also hear on Facebook, go ahead and leave me messages. And if you put any message underneath the post under Good Afternoon Tom Hines, if you put any messages inside of Facebook, I'll also read them on air, unless you tell me this is for you only, don't read it on air. So you have you have as much privacy as you want, and you have as little privacy as you want as well. Again, folks, that telephone number is 646-929-2495. So what was up today, or what was up this week? We had a crazy week, didn't we? Things changed. The polls are so close now. That's the national polls, of course, but even the battleground polls are closing. For those people who want to say, but it can't happen, folks, let's remember it can happen if people don't participate. And that is one of the things that we were discussing at the public narrative forum that I just left to come back to do the show. And as soon as I leave the show, I'll be back to Lone Star College again to continue learning in that course about public narrative. But anyway, folks, you all know what's going on. Donald Trump, the founder of the birther movement, finally reveals that President Obama, what did he do? That President Obama was born in the United States. Do you find it strange that it was Mr. Trump's job to tell us that the president is an American, that the president of the United States is an American? Many look at this week as a possible undoing of Donald Trump. However, the reality is, I'm not sure how it played out. I don't even know if his play has really failed. The national media is saying, oh, he made a big mistake, especially in the way he came out of the birtherism, that he somehow did it wrong. I will talk about that. I think I think I understand what he's doing. And what he's doing isn't all that crazy. You know what? I actually think, under the right conditions, the game that Trump is playing with the birther deal right now could actually work. You know, a lot of times I like to play the role of the contrarian. And why do I like to play the role of this contrarian? Because that is the way you win. if you think you know the answers, or if you think you know everything, somebody will always be there to catch you. Somebody will always be there to catch you. So what I want you guys to take a look at is things are not necessarily how they seem all of the times. They're not necessarily so. But you know what time it is.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, it's a short one. This is just one of the blogs that I did because we're talking birther. I decided to go ahead and talk about this. Anyhow, Donald Trump, the founder of the birther movement, finally reveals that President Obama was born in the United States. Of course, he did it with a debunked lie. This is what he said exactly. Not to mention her in the same breath, Donald Trump said, but Hillary Clinton and her campaign of 2008 started the birther controversy. I, Donald Trump, finished it. You know what I mean. President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period. Now we all want to get back to making America strong and great again. That was from Brother Trump. Listen, for a change, the media pushed back at the lies in his statement. You know, he told one truth and then he added two more lies. He said three things. Mark Halperin said, that's one of the reporters on MSNBC. The two were false, that Hillary Clinton started it, and second, that he ended it. And then one thing that is true, President Obama was born in the United States. I think he has gotten away with saying falsehood about things far more serious in terms of their impact on the real lives of people. You think? But this has a lot of emotional and symbolic resonance for millions of Americans. I think those who cared about this before will still care about it afterwards. Of course, everybody's going to still care that he tried to delegitimize this president. Look, this fiasco should never have been a real story. However, the media gave it legs by giving Donald Trump the airtime and plausibility. The derelict media is directly responsible for allowing charlatans to mislead Americans. They are still doing it, and it could cost the country dearly. Before I get into anything, I want to make something aware to the listeners here. Why this birther thing was ridiculous in the first place. As you guys all know, I tell you all the time, I'm from Central America, Panama. And it turns out that in Panama, where I lived, there were two kinds of folks. There were the Americans and then the Panamanians. And those who worked for the canal at a certain level had to live in this area called the Canal Zone. I was born in a hospital in the Canal Zone. And guess who else was born in the same hospital that I was born in? Senor McCain. Senator McCain was born in the same hospital that I was born in. Look it up. Cocosolo. Okay, now, here's the deal. I'm a Panamanian. I was born in the same place. I have Panamanian parents, and I am a Panamanian, so I held my Panamanian citizenship. When I came to the States to go to school and decided to stay, I had to get a green card, and I had to get naturalizations to become naturalized to become a U.S. citizen. Mr. McCain, who was also born in Panama, came to the States. He had to do absolutely nothing. He's a natural born citizen, and that gave him the right to be the president, because according to the Constitution, only natural born citizens can be the president. Now, that said, McCain had that right. The Congress reiterated that right. He has that right, constitutional right to do it, because again, the Constitution never did specifically express what natural born citizen means. So because it only said natural born citizens, well, a U.S. citizen, somebody who was born of at least one U.S. parent in this country, is a natural born citizen. So somebody born in Italy or somebody born in Japan on those bases or otherwise from an American parent, they are natural born citizens. President Obama's mother is from Kansas. Okay? He's a Kansas man. Now, why are we not talking about real issues? We'll talk about real issues in a minute, but I need to go ahead and get this out, Daniel, because again, this is mostly, believe it or not, Daniel, this is mostly for a lot of the folks that you kind of hang with, the Tea Party, who made this an issue. So the reason this should never have been an issue is simply this, because the following. President Obama, nobody denies that his mother is an American woman from Kansas. If his mother is an American woman from Kansas, even if the president was born in Kenya, it would not have mattered. He would still have been an American, still would have been a natural born citizen. Every single reporter should have known that. They all went to school and they all do investigative research, and they should have known that. The story should never have been a story at all. This shows you how derelict our media is to have even created the semblance of this being a story. Now, so what I wanted to express express the notion here is, let's be clear. What Donald Trump did, or the notion that Donald Trump had any credibility in the first place, was always false and is false. Now, where are we, or where do we go from here? The polls. But before I get to the polls, because there's another reason why I brought up the birther subject. All of the reporters, and I'm coming to you, 210, John, in a little bit. All of the reporters, every single reporter that you hear on TV, are of the belief that what Trump is doing right now is going to crater, is going to hurt his campaign, etc., etc., etc. I don't think so. Because notice how he framed it in that very 20 seconds that he spoke. He said Hillary Clinton started it because of something somebody in her campaign talked about, Obama's Americanism, and he ended it. There are a lot of people who simply don't like Hillary and who simply want to believe. They want to have a reason to justify not voting for Hillary, and also to justify acceptance in voting for Donald Trump. Some people still have a bit of morality here. Some people still have it. And what they want to do is justify within themselves why it is okay to vote for Mr. Trump. And what he is playing on right now, and what I think the newscasters have not yet realized, is how he has successfully been able to use them to promote the message that he wants out. Just putting that message that it started with Hillary Clinton and giving two people that mentioned President Obama's Americanism in her campaign would be enough to open the doubts of many. Unjustified? Absolutely not. But a lot of people will do it. Now the polls. The polls are closing. Are these polls real? Yes, they are. There are a lot of people that want that believe that Hillary Clinton simply cannot win because Americans simply would not vote for somebody like Donald Trump. To which I say, they voted for another person that had pretty high negative, well, not high negatives, people never thought they would have voted for as well. A guy named Reagan, who was considered a joke. I don't know how many of you were following politics back in those days, but the Reagan that everybody adores now was once a joke. But he was elected and re-elected by solid majorities, not pluralities. Remember, President Clinton was elected with a plurality. Senor Reagan was elected with a majority. There's a big difference. Of course, there were three viable candidates then. So we have to remember these things. Yes, Donald Trump is definitely viable. These polls are really close. Now, what we have to consider here is that there's a good chance this man, absent news not getting out there, will become the next president. Let me go ahead and bring in John, because he's been waiting for a while. John, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Despite Trump gaining, and he is really gaining. Mm-hmm. Right now I have the numbers on my own polling. Basically, at Clinton 272, Trump 266.
Right.
So it is really close. He's ahead in Florida. He's ahead in Ohio. He's ahead in Nevada. He's ahead in Iowa. Nate Silver has in his polls only all of the things that I said, except he still has Clinton leading in Nevada by 0.2 of a point.
Right.
And also in the 2nd District of Maine, Trump is up in the latest poll by 10 points.
Which gives him the
Another
269,
poll came out
269. Yeah, that is a magical poll that would give us a possible 269, which throws it into the House of Representatives. Think about
Right. So basically, yeah, he only needs 3 electoral votes. I mean, again, this is a snapshot in time.
Right.
Obviously, the big thing that Clinton needs to do well on are the debates, and I think that is her strong point. So that is a sense of optimism for people who want to see. Don't want to see the decline of America in so many ways. I mean, just if you elected any Republican and they held the Senate and the House, there would be this dystopian, society that would come about. I mean, it's funny to hear that word kind of thrown about at the convention so much, because I've been using that for a while. With Trump elected, you have this other, this constitutional crisis, walking constitutional crisis, which, who knows what that'll lead to. I mean, you try to be...
Let me put it bluntly. I honestly believe if Donald Trump is elected, within 2 years he will be impeached. Okay, and the reason why I think he would be impeached is because there's so much. There's a lot of look. We had a derelict media. The media has went in and did a whole lot of research on Hillary Clinton. They did very little background on Trump. And the thing about it is, there's a lot of background to pick up on Trump, because there's a lot of bloggers out there that have found a whole lot of stuff, and a lot of independent reporters that have found a whole lot of stuff that likely, if Americans knew earlier on, they would make it. They would be serious about not electing Donald Trump. The problem is deeper though. There's this theory that when at this point of an election, a whole lot of things are baked in. So there's not much that you can say negative about Trump that's really going to hurt his core. And there's not much negative that you're going to say about Clinton that's going to hurt her core. What happens is where the people on election day, or when they're, and that's why early vote couldn't come early enough for for Clinton, because she wants to bank it while she's ahead. If she falls behind in early vote, he'll be banking. And that's the problem. Because as it turns out, yesterday there was something interesting that happened on the media. I saw an exasperated Chuck Todd and a whole bunch of guys sitting down on a panel saying, "Oh my God, he used us again." You hear Roland Martin talking about Trump pimping the media. You hear all these guys complaining about how he's taking them for granted, to which I can simply ask, why are you allowing it? In other words, he goes ahead, and the reason they followed him yesterday was because he said he was going to give a news conference and had something to say about the birther movement, etc. So everybody went there. What did he take that time to do? He made them stay half an hour with generals. And by the way, a lot of these generals are fairly crazy. A lot of these generals themselves are birthers. It's amazing. He brought all the generals out to come and give him kudos. So what Americans saw on cable TV for a whole half hour is our generals giving him a whole lot of kudos. And then he makes one sentence where he says, the president is an American, and he leaves. And it stays at that. But again, you can't have a press that all along keeps you on air, that never challenged you, and now that you're really a threat, they start to challenge you. What do you think the average American citizen, low information voter, is going to believe? They're going to believe the setup is in. And what they allowed him to do, they allowed Trump to do something very important. Trump came on cable TV 24/7 telling folks how bad the media was or is. So he have already, when you go to war, you have to another country. We get our destroyers and all our battleships out there at the coast, and we start lobbing bombs. And the only purpose of those bombs is to soften up the shore, so that you can then get in. Well, they allowed Trump to come into people's living room and throw bombs. So they got delegitimized early on. I mean, we've been doing that for a long time, trying to get folks to get off of following these guys, because look at what they did with Trump. But they get delegitimized, and what happens then? Nothing that they say now is going to be taken with a whole lot of credence. And 52 days is really not a whole lot of time to change things. So I honestly believe that right now, where we show that Hillary Clinton, I think the last I looked at Daily Kos, Hillary Clinton had about a 73% chance of winning. I think that is much too high. I think this race is at least a 50-50 race. And I think the enthusiasm is really with the Trump folks. And I think it's with the Trump folks because for two reasons. The media, and also I don't think Hillary has done the job to really get her message out, or to get a message out, a message that tells people I am really changed. And you know, John, that's one of the reasons folks like us were strong Bernie supporters, because that would have been a distinct change. And you say, and before you say, folks, this is a live show. You can give us a call at 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. Before I let John in, I tell you one thing. Yesterday, the president's wife, Michelle Obama, gave a great speech at George Mason University. And I don't know if I have the speech in my list here, but she gave distinct reasons why it is in people's vital interest for, let's say, a Hillary Clinton over a Trump, based simply on policies. The problem so far in this election is we haven't spoken policies. After John speaks, I want to talk a little bit about policies and what we're looking at as a difference. So, John, go ahead.
Okay, I agree with you about the policies, and you brought that up, and you brought about, you were talking about policies, I guess it was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
It was a very good show. As far as the numbers, Nate Silver right now at the polls only is at 60.2%. The nowcast, which would mean if the election was held
right
now, it's 57.6 to Clinton, and in the polls plus, it's 59.2. So yeah, I mean, you're saying 50-50. It's somewhere. Nate says it's somewhere in the middle.
Right.
But I mean, it is very close, and so yeah, I just want to talk about a few things. I agree with you about the media, particularly this thing about her being sick.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to, I believe so strongly in democratic values, also obviously, democratic socialist values also.
Right.
That, if Hillary Clinton was literally on her deathbed, I would vote for her.
Right.
I mean, they would have absolutely no sway on me at all, because, I vote on ideas, and I vote on who's going to help people the most, who's going to help that struggling, young child who really doesn't have the opportunities of somebody who is born rich. And that's what I care about the most. And so, the media oversaturation about all the phony scandals that have been going on has really hurt the campaign. And also, the right-wingers, and you see this with this guy Ledo, I mean, they totally vilify Clinton. And, it's like 99% of the things they say are false, She hasn't done anything illegal at all. I mean, nothing, zero. I mean, and if she would be in prison. Her health is fine. And again, even if her health was bad, I don't care about that. Our two greatest presidents of last century were in bad health. I mean, President Kennedy had Addison's disease. Obviously, FDR had polio. They were the two greatest presidents of our century. This is totally overblown, what's being talked about in the media about this. And so, that's the main thing. Also, you might have a slight disagreement with me about this, but, Maybe not, because I mean, you're talking about issues, and that's what Clinton needs to get back to.
Yes.
She needs to get back to talking about issues. And, you know, I'm not saying don't, I mean, you still need to talk about Trump, but, you know, try to talk about the vision she's going to give for this country. I mean, that's why the Democratic Convention was so successful, because they did that. And I also wish they would have had the Democratic Convention after the Olympics.
Right.
That was a real mistake, you know, because I don't think that she would be down this much in the poll, because she would still be riding the coattails to some degree of that convention. But, I mean, that's, you know, and I hope they schedule the convention later for 2020.
Yeah, we hope. Now, hold your thought there, John, because I want to read something from Michelle Obama. Michelle, and this is what I wrote about Michelle right after the no, Ledo, and try to make your language a little bit more pleasant. Think about it. Aren't we always pleasant with each other? Be pleasant with the folk. Anyhow, Michelle Obama did not disappoint in her speech supporting Hillary Clinton at the George Mason University. I want to quote what she said here. "I want you to remember what's at stake," Michelle Obama said. "The choice that you make on November 8th will determine whether you can afford college tuition. It will determine whether you will keep your health care when you graduate. On November 8th, you will decide whether we have a president who believes in science and will fight climate change or not. You will decide whether we have a president who will honor our proud history as a nation of immigrants or not. You will decide whether we have a president who thinks that women deserve the right to make their own choices about their bodies and their health or not." And then she follows. "And here is the thing, and this is very important here. At a time when incomes are rising by thousands of dollars, when millions of people are being lifted out of poverty, ask yourself, is now really the time to fundamentally change direction when we are making such progress? I mean, do we really want to go back to the way things were before Barack was president? A time of economic crisis, stagnant wages when we were losing 800,000 jobs a month? Or do you want a president who keeps moving this country forward? Well, that's what's at stake. So we can't afford to be tired or turned off, not now, because while this might feel like a time of uncertainty and division, I have never felt more hopeful about the future of this great nation. And the reason I do this, the reason we do KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston and around the world, because we broadcast on the internet as well, is exactly that. John, I believe, and for those that are listening, I do believe that ultimately Americans, if we do our job right, all of those of us listening, instead of being fearful that we may get Mr. Trump as president, that we go out and do the work that is necessary to tell our friends and families and even convince a Daniel Ledo that it is in his best interest to go ahead and vote for Hillary Clinton, then that's the job for us to do. I'm going to sit down and have some coffee with you, Ledo. You know that, Daniel? I'm going to have you voting for Hillary. But here's the thing. Ledo says this guy who voted for a CARP says, I'm not going to read that one, but he said, proud history. She only became proud of her country in 2007. Who? Michelle? That is a fallacy we speak about, Daniel. That is a fallacy we speak about. To take people out of context is one issue. When Michelle said that, look, and this, you have to understand this. It's the same thing that they're talking about Copernic right now. Oh, Copernic doesn't love his country because he's protesting against the Star Spangled Banner. A song that was written by a slave owner, Francis Scott Key, that not only was a slaveholder, but also in the third verse says, great, we're killing those slaves that decided to go fight with the British to get their liberties. Think about that. Mr. Ledo, would you be honoring that song, sir, if it were telling you, I am glorifying your death? One of the things with limited information that we have, when we have a population that knows little, and also a population that is unwilling to learn. In other words, it's not bad to learn a little. The program that I'm coming from, that I have to go back to at the university right now, one of the things we said is this, and it was interesting. The guy asked the whole folks, what do we think is the most important thing right now? What I told him is, first of all, I think the government is, the first thing the government ever cuts is education. In Texas, I don't know if you know this, John, but we're about to lose another $1 billion in public education here this year. The reason it's always easy to cut education are twofold. One, it's a quick place to cut a whole bunch of money quickly. And two, politicians do not have the necessary interest to having a very educated population. And why don't we want a very educated population? Because we start to ask questions. We start to ask, why do we want an educated population who is going to question the evils of certain types of corporations? Not all, but some. Who is going to an educated population would also know that, wait a minute, we have public lands, and these public lands are being exploited by, I shouldn't say exploited, let me not use exploited. These public lands are being mined. It is public land, it's owned by all of America. They're being mined by private corporations. And the profits from mining by these private corporations, they don't go into the coffers. They don't go to offset student loans or to help make the country a better country. They go to a select few. So we have, if I'm talking to Mr. Ledo or people that think like Mr. Ledo, is it really okay? Yes, we'll do coffee, and I mean that, because I got to do some talking to you, my brother. Anyhow, it is important. It is important for us to know the facts. We have thousands of square miles of land that's owned by the American people. Private companies mine these lands and take all the profit, and we get very, very, very little from it. An educated population would know those things occur, and they would do something about it. An educated population would know that, how can we allow our brothers and sisters to live in filth because corporations know that this part of town has little income and has no way to complain. I mean, there are a whole lot of things that an educated population wouldn't allow. If you are educated, you won't allow these things to happen. So that is a whole lot of reasons that we're talking about. But folks, the telephone number, 646-929-2495. John is the only one who has the guts to call every week. 929 or 646-929-2495. And you can actually leave some messages here for me. Ledo has been pretty active. Christy has been active as well. That will be a good conversation, Christy. I've spoken to Ledo before. He's a nice guy. He's kind of rough when he's talking online, but he's really a nice guy. But anyhow, going back to the subject at hand, policy, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. I asked everybody who's watching this, those who are watching live and those who will be watching it on vlogcasts and podcasts, visit the two websites and visit policies. Also try to verify the veracity of candidates. Hillary has been accused of being very non-transparent. The reality is Hillary has been more transparent than most politicians that have ever run. And why? Because she's been exposed for the last 30 years. The email scandal is a red herring. And why is the email scandal a red herring? Because, as I mentioned in other shows before, but I will repeat here again because a lot of people don't understand. First of all, let me tell you guys, I'm a software developer, software engineer, mechanical engineer by degree, but done software all my life. Here's what happens. The email scandal is a sham. Every bit of email that Hillary Clinton would have ever sent, the government already has. Don't let them lie to you. Every single email that Hillary has ever sent, the government has. Let me even tell you better. Every single email that you have sent, the government has it. There's no hiding. So nobody can hide emails unless you use some sort of encryption. And a lot of these encryption can easily be broken by the government. So the email stuff is a scam. The media allowed it to occur, and that is partially responsible for where we are in the polls. We know the birther scam was a fraud, but the birther scam indirectly was resulted in the growth of Donald Trump because he used the birther scam to solidify the alt-right on his behalf. I don't know if you guys saw on the news that the white supremacists actually had a big meeting at the press club. They couldn't have it specifically at the press club, but they had it at a location in Washington, D.C., where they said Donald Trump is their man. Then they went ahead and gave him all the necessary kudos and support. And they're going out to get the vote for Donald Trump. They're not playing. They consider him their candidate. But it's not only that they consider him as their candidate. They will elect him. And if they elect him, you must realize that he has to some degree, placate the will of these people. And if you doubt that he will, just remember that they are really not all that different from Donald Trump. Donald Trump is simply I'll put it as kindly as I can. Donald Trump is a white supremacist with a tie. That's what he is. I mean, and it has nothing to do with just what he's done lately. It has to do everything with his life. With his life. I don't say this lightly. I don't just go ahead and call somebody a supremacist with a tie. But when you look at his corporations and who has power, when you look at who he has handling his money at his casinos, all these things are documented mostly by independent writers, independent journalists, and bloggers. But you won't see the mainstream media just come out and tell the average American the truth. So policy, I've gotten a whole lot of new callers in, so I want to reiterate a few things here. When voting or when thinking about voting within this election, please do remember, follow policies. Go to these people's independent website, HillaryClinton.com and DonaldJTrump.com. You can actually watch the two things. Donald Trump came out with something interesting this week. He said that he had a plan to help women. Wow. He was going to help women. How is he going to help them? He's going to give them 6 weeks of maternity leave, paid for. And he's also going to give tax. At first he said he was going to give earned income credits. But if you look at the plan on the website, he's going to give tax credits, which means if you don't make enough money, you don't get tax credits, right? Because just like Obamacare, people think Obamacare is a giveaway. For people like me who gets Obamacare as well, I get zero. I get zero support from Obamacare, but it allows me to buy because there are no things like my wife with lupus can now get insured, etc. But I pay for it, all of it. But even those people who get subsidies, they shouldn't call those subsidies. They should call those what they are, tax credit. In other words, if you pay taxes, we make your taxes less to get it. Okay? You know, notice how they treat, I must be blocked from whomever you're talking. Daniel, yeah, I don't know. Daniel, don't block folks who are talking with you. We're an open thing, buddy. We're open thing. Anyhow, so his new plan, as I said, involved giving folks tax credits. So therefore, if you're a multimillionaire and you send your kid to a very expensive school, you get a huge tax break. But if you are a layman who's working in the streets, a baker or whatever, and you send your kid to and let's say you paid a ton of money in FICA, in Social Security tax, because nobody can run away from Social Security tax. Only if you're rich. Remember that. This is, oh my God, when I think about these things, some of these things get me upset about how our system is run. Again, I always talk about education. I'm a bit disjointed now, again, like I said, because this was a tough morning, but I need to mention something about taxes, folks. Note what I said. The people who pay a lot of Social Security taxes are the average working family. And it's not that they stopped charging Social Security tax after about 112,000 or something like that. It's that you don't have to collect your income as wages. And guess what? If you decide that you're a multimillionaire, you know how much you pay yourself or you get paid? You ask them to pay you zero. And then you get paid in giveaways. In other words, you get paid in capital gains or you get paid in what's called disbursement. And guess what? Done on those, you don't pay Social Security tax. So you can be a very wealthy person and pay zero in Social Security tax. Why? Because that's the way our tax code is written. These are the same policies. Read Donald Trump's policies. These same policies appear or apply to what he wants. It's all about the way he handles taxes. It's all about how much is going to be gotten by the few, which is next to nothing, and the wealthy, which is quite a bit. Folks, telephone number 646-929-2495, 646-929-2495, or if you have any other message in here. Let's see, middle class 2 or 3,000 of a family of 4. Yeah, and tell me how far can that go? Let me kind of scroll down to see if there's any other messages that I need to answer to folks right now. I don't have any right now. You want to add anything to that, John?
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about, how Kellyanne Conway kind of created this pander Trump, which is essentially, trying to get white voters to believe that he's not racist.
Right.
And that's what the whole outlook with the African American community.
Right.
And,
I wanted to talk about that, but let you talk first, but I want to bring that up about his approach to the African American community. So, but go ahead and finish your thought.
Well, I mean, I just have to say that, I think this has been fairly successful. I mean, I'm just trying to analyze the situation. I mean, obviously, Trump is like the worst possible thing that could happen, in politics in my lifetime. I mean, even much worse than George W. Bush has
right.
potential. And so, I just think that, I really wonder, because we see these Republican voters who are kind of on a yo-yo.
Right.
It goes back and forth. First, they don't want to support Trump, and then they end up going to him.
Right.
And this has happened 3 separate times.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is the fact that it's happening in September, and he's closer than ever, even closer than he was in July to winning the election.
Right.
It's really sad. I mean, it really makes me think about, is America really that gullible?
Yes.
Do
yes.
they really have
yes.
that bad? Is their judgment really that bad?
Yeah, I mean a few.
And
Yes, John. The answer to that is yes, and it's not the individual American's fault. Okay, and this is why I talk about. And why I go to programs like I'm going to with the public narrative that I'm learning about today at the Lone Star College. And the reason I take these types of programs is that you have to first understand people and understand where they're coming from. And when you understand where people are coming from, then you can talk to them and see what's going on. First of all, we've dumbed down the nation quite a bit. The Fox Newses and the MSNBCs and all these places have really dumbed down America because the fact that a birther argument could last as long as it is, when simply saying Obama's mother was an American should have shut it down. By simply saying Obama's mother was an American, that was a fact. People could go to the Constitution and see that. It would have closed the door. But when you have a dumbing down of the press, a dumbing down of America, this is what occurs. So also in school, people don't learn their civic duties. Also, they don't learn. They learn to. They learn what's known as false balances and false equivalences. In other words, the media follows a protocol that if they say something bad about Trump, they want to say something bad about Clinton. And I take it in the last show that I did. I don't know if you listened to the show on KPFT on Thursday, but on the you were there on the KPFT show. I mentioned that. And with Clinton, there was even a bit of misogyny applied to that, which cuts even deeper. But and not only that, one of the reasons that I also mentioned with Trump, if this were a Trump versus some other male Democrat, it would the male Democrat would likely have been ahead by now, because what happens in the media is the following. There is this thing known as I don't remember what I called it in the blog post that I wrote, but what happens is Donald Trump is the instantiation of what American power looks like. So right now it is believed that Hillary is the other, and in as much as these reporters and journalists know that this guy's a liar, all the producers are mostly male. All of the women that are there want to hold their jobs, so they take the male's point, the counterpoint. And if you see, you can actually see that thing about when, I know you're rolling your eyes, Dan, but it's the truth. And ask any woman this, and she'll tell you that it's the truth. And for when you tell me, well, there are a lot of women supporting Trump, that is like saying there are a lot of black folks supporting Trump as well, which is the case. You know, we all have the ability to be misinformed and to work our better interests, and many times financial at that. But that said, so Hillary is going through, and you guys should know by now, I'm no big Hillary supporter, but I know misogyny when I see it. I know unfairness when I see it. And I think if a lot of folks had more empathy, they would as well. Email scandal, no scandal really. Birther scandal, used as a jab inside, no scandal. Healthcare scandal, they have more about Hillary's healthcare than they ever had about Trump. So you weigh these two things together, and this is what we spoke about. I had some blog discussions with this. You weigh transparency together. We talked about the Clinton Foundation. Clinton Foundation examined absolutely no giveaways of money. Not only that, 10% of the money in the Clinton Foundation goes towards expenses. 90% of the money goes out. Donald Trump comes on national TV and says that 90%, only 10% of the money goes out to do good things. Never corrected in the media. So people think, yes, Hillary Clinton's funds, or the Clinton Foundation must be a slush fund. Far from the case. They take in money and they save millions of lives. That's the truth. However, Trump's foundation is a cash pass-through in which he doesn't even donate to his foundation, and nobody talks about it. They just started talking about it recently. It's been reported several times that his foundation is simply used to channel money and favors. A lot of these foundations, they get money and they pay Trump. Trump yesterday, when he brought the media to his new hotel, using them as free propaganda for his hotel. Did you know that the Trump people, the people who support Trump, the people that are donating to Trump, were responsible for paying for that room to whom? To Trump. So Trump flies around in this plane that's Trump's plane. You know who's paying for the gas on that plane? Do you know who's paying for the hours on that plane? Those people that are donating money to Trump. So Trump is using the campaign, win or lose, he wins. Because the people that are profiting from the campaign itself, you know, if I have a campaign, I pay money to the baker, I pay money to the hotels, I pay money to all these places. Well, all the people getting paid are Trump companies. Oh, we want some steaks? Trump steaks. We want to fly? Air Trump. The guy is using all these things, and the reason that Americans don't know this, all I hear from the progressive movement is misogyny, racism, blah, blah, blah. Ledo, if you can't see it, if you don't see the misogyny, if you don't see the racism, if you don't see the sexism, if you don't see the homophobia, at this current point in time, you are in fact the problem. That you can't see it, you are the problem. That you think Egberto Willies goes out in the world and don't have to know that when folks see me, the first thing people see is my melanin. It is laughable. For you to believe that when I go places, that my treatment isn't directly proportional to the level of melanin in my skin, it's laughable if you believe that isn't the case. And I'm not the type of person that sit down here and say, oh my God, this is racism. I've moved ahead. I've done a whole lot of things. I've done these things in spite of racism, in spite of all the isms. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But we feel it. For all those that are listening to me that aren't white, for all those that are listening to me that are not women, for all those that are listening to me that are women, that are homosexuals, that are gay, that are all these different subgroups. There is a reason why they say what they say, Mr. Ledo. These things are real. And the problem that many of us have is there's a certain amount of our white audience, our white friends, or white buddies that simply lack the empathy to see that. Look at somebody like John. John's a white dude. this is what, to put it bluntly, John is a lot more empathetic than some of my black friends, right, John?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think the black community is pretty awesome. I mean,
I know, but
really
I'm giving you some kudos, brother. Come on, I'm giving you some kudos now. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is this: we have to be, for the white folks listening to me, you have to be empathetic. It's not imaginary. I mean, when I started blogging, I'm a political blogger. That's all you know. That's all I do for a living now. That's all I do for a living: blog, radio, and write. Okay. Now, when I started, I never or rarely ever did blog pieces on race. Rarely. And the reason why is I wanted to be associated first as a blogger and not a black blogger. So therefore, before my face was anywhere, I had a whole lot of articles out there, and nobody know from whence or whom it came from or what it looked like. And there was a reason for that, because I didn't want to be placed in a box. But whenever I write a controversial blog and my picture appear on the blog, or my picture does not appear on the blog, you should see the difference in comments on those in fact, I should do the experiment in a few weeks and just show you guys what really matters. I even did an experiment. I had a young woman came and did a show with me at the studio. One was a blonde white woman, a friend of mine, and we sat down and we did the show together. Believe it or not, it wasn't a very substantive show, but it was the show that got the most views ever. I then did a substantive show with a young man, and for all practical purposes, the show, I wouldn't say bombed. None of these shows ever bomb because they stay at podcasts and they get a lot of views. But look, I'm a little bit off subject, but Ledo opened the door to this because right now racism is a big subject in this election. Racism is real. White supremacist is real, and white privilege and supremacy are real things that need to be discussed. White supremacy and white privilege isn't an attack on white people at all. At all. It is, because I tell you, like I always told people, white supremacy has very little to do with white people, to tell you the truth. White people are just a tool within white supremacy. They're just a tool. They're just a tool to create a pecking order that allows for this plutocracy of a very few, of which most of the white people aren't a part of either. We are in the same boat. We are absolutely in the same boat. I did two quotes with one of thank you very much, Marianne. Marianne is one of our coffee party legends that's listening to the show right now. And if you guys don't know, folks, you should go to coffeepartyusa.com. We're working on a project now called Vote Anyway. So please go to coffeepartyusa.com/vote anyway and be a part of the solution that we're all talking about right now. We're kind of running short on time. I'm sorry to kind of babble at the end, but my good friend Ledo kind of forced me into the discussion on racism. But Ledo, I mean, I since it wasn't a racism show, it was more than that. It was about the election. I haven't spoken about that, but we have to sit down and have some coffee and let me really hit you up on some of the race issues. We'll sit down and talk about that. But let me get to 951 real quick. I'm sorry I missed that. 951, come on in. You're on the air. Mike.
Hello, Mr. Alberto. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir. Talk to me.
What do you think about the idea that the media that has given candidate Trump so much press are doing it in self-interest, knowing that a lot of their viewers are just waiting for the next gaffe, so it just generates It generates more people watching their shows, which in turn, increases ad buys. So it's basically self-interest.
I think you're right. You're partially right. Look, let me tell you, you're partially right. I mean, I'm not going to say you're partially right. You're simply right. And let me tell you what I mean by that. That one of their biggest thing is to make money, but also to make, but there are certain lines they have never crossed to make money. Let me give an example. You look on TV, local news, right? If you look at local news and you look at crime on local news, to you, crime has a certain face. However, if you look, yeah, I should do the show 2 hours, but sometimes it gets pretty, I'll think about that, Christy. Here's the deal, but when you look at the reality of records, crime looks a lot different by the records than on what you see on TV. But it's even worse. Crime outside, meaning if you look in the world, not looking at FBI statistics or anything like that, if you look outside of what crime looks like, crime looks nothing like jails. It looks nothing like what the FBI says. And that's because of the way our system works. And you're right that when it comes to Trump is actually using the media, and the media is using him to make money. The thing about it is they, in the process, could actually affect our democracy. Mike? And you say? Mike?
Yes, go ahead.
Do you have anything else to add?
No, I agree with that. I'm a member of the Human Solution International, as well as your own Coffee Party team, and I've been following criminal justice for quite some time now. And across Europe, crime levels, if the U.S. reflected our judicial process the same way Europe does, we wouldn't have 6 times the amount of incarceration.
Exactly.
Apparently, we've created crimes where there's no victim.
Of course, and then what happens with a lot of our people is then they go into prisons and then they learn how to be real criminals when they go into prison. When they come out, nobody wants to hire them. We don't really have a process to really reform people. And as such, we create the problem over. But then again, we get into the prison industrial complex where that is what our government wants, because with private prisons and with keeping prison beds filled up, we have to have crimes to fill those beds up. But I tell you what, give me a quick closer, Mike, because we're going to have to close the show in a little bit. So you want to give us some final thoughts, about 15 seconds?
I'd just like to say that I'm a cannabis activist, and nobody should go to jail for a plant. And if you have something that moves that message forward,
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.